I gotta be honest, I caught up quite a bit of flack from some Bears fans on social media this past weekend for daring to suggest that I almost kind of wanted the Vikings and or the Packers to win, and they should too, because nothing better than pouring more salt in the wounds of the Bears organization that clearly deserves it, and maybe having two NFC North teams playing in the NFC Championship game would send a stronger message. I get where that feels counterintuitive, potentially counterproductive, but you got to understand where I'm coming from. 8 playoff appearances in 30 years. Come on. Guy is due for some irrational thoughts from time to time, isn't he? And as a couple of you so eloquently and appropriately and accurately pointed out, the Packers and the Vikings have been kicking their ass for the most part for over 2 decades. What would be so different now? And you're absolutely right. And when it finally got to the game, specifically on Sunday night, with the Packers hosting the Seahawks, I had gotten that feeling out of my head and said, no, you know what? I still hate Green Bay. I in no way, shape, or form want them to win this game. Maybe in part because I don't want to see the Packers potentially one game away from the Super Bowl. And now that they're in the NFC Championship game, they could potentially get there, which will drive me nuts. Puts Aaron Rodgers one game closer to winning his second Lombardi trophy. It also maybe was a thought of, I've already seen the Packers play the 49ers in the regular season and they got steamrolled. But the Seahawks have played them incredibly close twice, beat them once, and barely lost to them the second time. So looking at which game in the NFC Championship could potentially be more interesting, more compelling, and maybe perhaps keep the 49ers out of the Super Bowl, it was the Seahawks. It would have been okay for me if the Seahawks won. But it didn't seem okay to them that this divisional round game was in Green Bay early on. As my God, the Seahawks were terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Like right from Jump Street, Packers come right out of the gate, march down the field, boom, Davante Adams touchdown. It's 7-0 before you even really blink an eye. And while the Seahawks responded a little bit later in the first quarter with the field goal, making it 7-3, problem is that they just couldn't do anything when it mattered earlier on in this game to stop the Green Bay Packers offense. Not that they were dynamic or incredible. I mean, it wasn't like Aaron Rodgers was stupendous here. His completion percentage wasn't great. You know, some of those metrics you would look at least a little bit. But when they needed to, and when they had to, time after time after time, the Seahawks failed to stop the Packers on third down. And in particular, more concerning was the fact that the one guy, in theory, that could come into this game and kill the Seattle Seahawks on that Packers offense outside of Rodgers was not going to be Aaron Jones. It was going to be Davante Adams. And knowing if you find a way to double team him, take him out of the equation, take him out of the game, then it really stymies what the Green Bay Packers can do offensively. And the Seahawks never figured this out. Like they're playing scrubs and young, unproven, undrafted players against him, and especially in key spots and situations. What the hell are you doing? Bracket coverage, something. Double team the dude. You do not get beat by Davante Adams in this case. You force somebody else to step up and make the big plays. And yet they just didn't learn their lesson. It was like stubborn stupidity. And even with all of that, talking about the Packers were up, 21-3 at halftime? And a lot of credit to the Seattle Seahawks. Because their defense was cheeks in this game for the vast majority of it. Absolute cheeks. But their offense behind Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett kept coming. And they didn't give up. And it felt like one of those things, especially if you're a Packer fan, you were worried about, well, they played a really good first half, this team did, on both sides of the ball. Now come the second half, are they actually going to be able to play a complete game? Are they going to actually be able to finish the deal? You start to get a little worried, especially when, lo and behold, here's Marshawn Lynch beast mode, second 1-yard touchdown run in the game, with 9.5 minutes to go. It's 28-23. And you're saying to yourself, for a game that was a snoozer, and it was, until you got to that point in the fourth quarter, this game was largely a snoozer. It was boring. It's just the way it goes sometimes. They can't all be winners, you know what I mean? But you get to that point, and all of a sudden you're like, ooh, Seattle can win this game. This is one of those types of games that the Seahawks can figure out a way to make it happen. Whether that means Russell Wilson leads them to 2 field goal drives in the fourth quarter, or they find a way to score a touchdown, and then what's going to happen? Aaron Rodgers gets the ball back in his hands with 1 timeout, maybe under 2 minutes on the clock, and the Packers need a field goal because the Seahawks missed a 2-point conversion. They're only up 1. And all these potential possibilities of what could have happened. But again, you had moments where the cheapness of this Seahawks defense showed up. And how weird is it to say that about a Seattle Seahawks team? After so many years of talking about the Legion of Boom and their great defense that would have to carry and bail out their offense at times, it's now the offense in Seattle that has to bail out the defense. It's the offense that has to sit there and carry the lion's share of the burden because that defense is not very good. When Jadeveon Clowney's not sitting there getting fucking illegal hits in that he's not going to get penalized or fined for, his team defensively just doesn't do a whole lot. They most certainly don't scare you. But I still thought they had a chance to win. Because I thought maybe the Packers were going to play scared or they were going to play rusty. You know, they came out of the gate. They certainly weren't rusty. For some of the other teams, they came out of the gates kind of sloppy after their bye. This was a team that certainly did not, just like the 49ers. Or in the AFC, the 2 teams on a bye came out incredibly sloppy. The Chiefs recovered and the Ravens went home. But you look at the end of this game, the Seahawks not getting all the stops that they need. Then they do get a stop. Then they get the ball back and fail to get it done when they need to. You still got the Packers have the ball. Yet and still, though, the Seahawks have an opportunity to stop them. It's 3rd down. And lo and behold, what do you know? Here's Jimmy Graham flashing over the middle on a shallow crossing route. He catches it, and he gets tackled. And I'm sorry. What is it about the Packers that seems to be that they get a benefit of a lot of these calls nowadays? Like, how could you look at the camera angles? How could you look at the slow-mo and replays and freeze frames and determine that Jimmy Graham had not only gotten the 1st down, but had went a half yard ahead of where the hell he was actually tackled? Like, that was my whole thing. When that 3rd down play happened and Jimmy Graham got tackled, it wasn't so much of whether or not it was a 1st down, because it looked, in real speed, it looked close. And I wasn't sure. But what I was damn sure of is the ref, who was 10 yards behind, had the spot way hella ass cheeks wrong. And that never got corrected. And then you find out after the game, you see the freeze frames and stuff, and you see he didn't get the 1st down. And I'm not just basing it off of the yellow line. He just didn't get the 1st down. Yet somehow, some way, the Packers got this to go in their favor, and off they go with a 28-23 victory over the Seahawks, moving on to the NFC Championship game next week against the San Francisco 49ers. If you're a Seahawks fan, you're probably a little ticked, irked, frustrated, and maybe you have a right to be. But the fact of the matter is, realistically, you didn't deserve to win this game. You didn't. As a team, the Packers played better for more of the game. You didn't deserve to win. If you wanted to win, your defense should have shown up and played better. If you wanted to win, your offense should have made big plays down the stretch when it needed to, when you had the chance to potentially take the lead, if not win the damn game outright. So you focus on that one missed call, that one blown call, the one bad call. Some of you might look at, we had additional footage. Well, where the hell did that come from? Like, are you trying to tip your hat that this is potentially rigged? And for the people that think this is rigged, let me set this straight. If you want to go down the State Farm Bowl angle of they want Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers, I get it. It's coincidental. But give me a break. If you're going down the path of, well, on the league's 100th anniversary, they want the 2 teams that faced off in the first Super Bowl to sit there and face each other, and Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Again, not buying it, but a lot of people would tune in to watch a Super Bowl. Would be very highly rated to see 2 superstar quarterbacks face off in Mahomes and Rodgers. I will guarantee you that, and I would agree with that assertion. But to say that the league would conspire against the San Francisco 49ers when you could argue that the San Francisco 49ers have had more sustained success over the past 35, 40 years than the Green Bay Packers have as an organization. And it can certainly be argued that because of all the bandwagon fans that have jumped on the board over several generations, that the San Francisco 49ers have a larger following and fan base than the Green Bay Packers. You could certainly say that as well, or at least equitable in size across the country. So why in the hell would the NFL care whether it was the Green Bay Packers or the San Francisco 49ers that made it to the Super Bowl? Now, if you want to go on the AFC side of the house, and you want to say they really don't want the Tennessee Titans in there, perhaps you have a better case. Smaller market team without nearly the following of the Kansas City Chiefs or the freaking 49ers or the freaking Packers. They don't have the star power, big names at quarterback like the other three teams do. Like, if you want to cry out for that, maybe, just maybe. But as much as I love a good old conspiracy theory from time to time, can we just say that the Green Bay Packers were the better team than Seattle Seahawks on this day? Can we? It's been a while since the Seahawks have beaten the Packers at Lambeau Field. They didn't do it again. Whether you like it or not, and I certainly don't. The Green Bay Packers won and they deserve to win, and they're off to the NFC Championship game.